This is a $50,000 Victorian house, but your homeowning journey begins here. A $100 Victorian house. You're 17, newly apprenticed at the ironworks, and after a grueling 100-hour work week, you walk home to your crib and feel proud, disgusted. This is the Victorian equivalent of a Silicon Valley startup flat. Mattress on the floor, kettle plugged into the wall, a crooked, coal-smudged tenement behind a chimney sweep's outhouse. It leaks when it rains, creaks when it doesn't, but it's yours. In the 1840s, speculative builders threw up thousands of back-to-back houses across industrial cities. Cheap, fast, and often without foundations. Entire rows were built with no ventilation, no rear access, which means if your neighbor dies in their sleep, you have to carry the coffin through your living room. In 1843, this represented opportunity. Opportunity for cash flow and diseases. Housing was available, but it was overcrowded and expensive, with stories of tenants subletting rooms and then renting out floor space in those rooms. The origin of rack renting, or the beginning of every housing crisis. By 1909, when you're already dead, this type of houses became illegal. Cities like Leeds and Birmingham were drowning in their own waste. Public health reformers called these homes legalized death traps. Rarely, Parliament agreed. Still, this is good. In this city, owning anything is better than being owned. You are at level 1. The house has no ability, like you, disability. But you believe, one day, you won't just live here. You'll own the row. And before you even realized, 6 years passed. You're no longer sweeping floors, you're supervising. But your first house, the tenement, it's holding you back. In 1849, a major cholera outbreak swept across London and northern cities. Dirty water and poor ventilation made it worse. People started demanding change. House prices dropped 23% overnight while everyone panics about disease and death. Opportunity. You immediately borrow from a building society, a savings club that lends to working men, and buy a terraced house for $500, your first real house. The Victorian terrace is the Casio of homes, affordable and reliable. Workers needed homes close to the mills. Landowners saw an opportunity. Build rows of small houses side by side with shared walls to save space and heat. Terraced housing was the answer. Many of these were called 2 up, 2 down, 2 rooms upstairs, 2 downstairs. Over 1 million of these homes were built in the Victorian period. Many are still lived in today. But here's your first stroke of genius. You don't sell the death trap, you rent it. Real estate rule number 1, hold on to your ladders. Someone else will pay for your next rung. Level 2 completed. A stable home. No stink air from shared walls with butchers and tanners. This house gives you space. Space for time. Time to plan the next move. At 29, the soot's still under your nails but no longer in your lungs. You've hired 3 boys at the mill. Your textile orders grew as the factory smoke covered the air. People said you won't see the sunlight in this lifetime, but you just did. Your wife. You met her above the mill. She handled orders better than you handled payroll. She read every ledger like it was a story she'd already finished. You asked her to stay. She did. But she wouldn't live in a house where the ceiling coughed soot and the rats knew your bedtime. So, you moved. A semi-detached house, 2.5 thousands, 2 floors, a bay window, real walls, 1 shared wall instead of 2, a luxury in 1870. You didn't buy it to impress anyone. You bought it for her. Semi-detached houses exploded in the mid-Victorian era. Cities were overflowing. Noise, smoke, and disease. Developers pushed out into the edges and built side-by-side homes just far enough from the factories. Suburbia was born, and with it, the middle class. Inside, a parlor for guests, a dining room for Sundays. You hire a maid. The maid hates you a little. That feels correct. Bay windows weren't just for light, they were status symbols so people could see your curtains, lace preferably. White, aggressively white. You bought your first house to survive. You bought this one so she wouldn't have to. Level 3 unlocked. And for the first time in your life, the math is beautiful. Or so you thought. The Panic, 1866. London's financial markets crashed, so did property prices, 40% overnight, but you saw it coming. You find a detached villa that was priced at $20,000 just months before, but now on sales because the seller, a cotton merchant, needs cash more than he needs pride. This new home costs $10,000. It stands alone. No shared walls, no children screaming next door. Your boots click on imported tiles. Your name is printed on the gate. These detached homes became popular in the 1870s to 1880s when the railway boom made it possible to live far from the smoke. Now you commute into soot and retreat to silence. Wait, take a look at the architecture. Welcome to the Gothic Revival. After Prince Albert died in 1861, Queen Victoria entered full emotional lockdown. Suddenly, people preferred black. Her black mood infected the entire nation's architecture. Every wealthy street in England sprouted spires, steep slate roofs, iron finials sharp enough to skew a pigeon. The whole house frowns in style. Inside this house has function rooms for emotions, a room to read, a room to weep, a room where no one is allowed to sit. The city you came from and the servants are still here with you, but you don't see them anymore. That's how you know you've arrived. Level 4 reached. 1873 brought in the long depression that separated the wheat from the chaff. Agricultural prices collapsed while industrial profits like you soared. You bought 3 more properties during the crash. By 1884, you own 7 properties across 3 cities, and your son is born in the estate that represents everything you've built. The $25,000 Victorian estate. You don't want him growing up with smoke in his lungs and rats in the walls. You want governesses, gardens, grammar school admissions on reputation alone, and society agrees. By the 1880s, houses like this sets the status because industrial wealth was still considered new money, but big homes with proper grounds and calculated restraint? That's how new money becomes respectable money. But some nights you wonder, what's next? You're next! The land boom of the 1890s, railway expansion opened virgin territory. You bought 50 acres on a hilltop, 30 minutes from town, the kind of place where fog hangs below you in mornings. This is the final move. Not because you want more space, but because people like you don't stay put. They build monuments. The famous Victorian mansion is born in this era. Turrets, gables, 12 chimneys. Owning a house like this meant one thing in Victorian England. You won capitalism. Wait, can you though? Your mansion cost $50,000 in 1895, equivalent to $5 million today, but your rental portfolio is worth $8.5 million in modern money. And when it's done, you walk the garden paths at dusk for the first time. You feel still. You started near the mills. Now, the mills are named after you, from soot to silk, alley to estate. When you're gone, maybe someone else will stand in that crooked little tenement or that grand estate and say, "This is where it began."